On New Year's morning, my son raised a champagne toast and slipped in a small update to my estate, naming himself executor and reallocating shares while the family clapped. He didn't know the will had been sealed, witnessed, and lodged with the court weeks earlier. I didn't argue. I opened a file. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. It helps more than you think. The new year began with the scratch of a fountain pen, my own, signing the last page of a will I'd revised the week before Christmas because quiet prudence beats loud surprise every time. At 71, after 4 decades on the bench, certain habits stick. Read twice. Sign once. File immediately. My attorney, Megan Cole, watched the ink dry. "Judge Whitaker," she said, still calling me that out of reflex, "we'll lodge the original with probate today and keep a duplicate in our vault. You'll keep this certified copy." I slid the embossed envelope into a fireproof folder. "If anyone asks." "You say your affairs are in order," she replied. "Because they are." At home, the house wore the afterglow of Christmas. Pine that had decided to linger, a ribbon on the banister Linda tied the week before she left this world. My son, Brandon, texted, "Brunch at 11. Champagne, resolutions, family meeting." The phrase family meeting should carry a warning label. I arrived to find laughter, clinking glassware, and a long table set like intent. Brandon stood at the head, sleeves rolled, charm sharpened. "Dad," he said, ushering me in, "sit by the window. Got a quick housekeeping thing before we eat." "Housekeeping?" I asked. "Nothing big," he said, tapping a manila folder. "Just aligning expectations so things are smooth when, you know." His wife, Kelly, smiled with the softness people wear when they're about to push. My granddaughter, Emma, drew a sun in the condensation on her glass. Brandon lifted a flute. To health, to legacy, to making sure what Dad built doesn't get tangled in red tape. The table chorused. Then he slid out a stapled draft, executor designation and estate allocation, prepared, he said, with a family attorney who does this all the time. He placed a pen next to my plate like a set piece. "If we sign today," he said, "we avoid probate backlog. I'll serve as executor, Kelly as alternate. We'll streamline distributions, house and accounts to immediate family with a discretionary fund for Emma's education." His eyes flicked up. "Keeps outsiders from muddling things." "Outsiders?" I repeated, hearing the room narrow. "Who prepared this?" "We all did," he said too quickly. "It's standard." I opened the packet. The language carried the smell of cut-and-paste lawyering. No attestation clause compliant with state statute. No self-proving affidavit. A signature line that guessed at formality and missed by yards. "Dad," Kelly said gently, "this is easier for everyone." "Easier for whom?" I asked. Brandon rested a hand on my shoulder, pressure disguised as affection. "Old wills cause conflict. This cleans it up." He had no idea the old will was 10 days old, witnessed by 2 disinterested parties, notarized, self-proving, and lodged. I set down the draft and unfolded my napkin. "Brunch first," I said, "then paperwork." He smiled like a man who'd won before the race. We ate eggs gone cold under talk about gym memberships and quarterly goals. Afterwards, he slid the pen back. "Sign on the yellow tabs, Dad." I looked at my granddaughter, then at him. "Brandon, why the rush?" He exhaled, slipping into the voice he used when he asked for temporary loans. "Because last month you forgot your cane at church, and Kelly panicked," he said. "Because if something happens, I need authority to protect you. Authority, I said, letting the word sit. And you believe this gives it? He nodded. We all do. Then let's be clear, I said. Authority comes from law, not napkins. Probate isn't a boogeyman, and a will isn't a brunch activity. His jaw tightened. Dad, please don't make this adversarial. Brandon, I said, voice even, the will is current. It has been witnessed, notarized, and lodged with the court. Any update requires capacity, statutory formalities, and my consent. None are present here. Kelly's expression faltered. Lodged? Brandon's smile cracked. When? Before Christmas, I said. And since you brought up capacity, if you ever challenge mine, be prepared to meet Dr. Harrell's report and 2 decades of colleagues ready to testify to the opposite. He swallowed. This is just to help. Then you'll have no objection to verifying the existing plan with counsel present, I said. I stood. For today, enjoy brunch. The law doesn't skip for champagne. The room exhaled a laugh it didn't mean. Emma reached for my hand. Grandpa, can I show you my drawing? Please, I said, and let her pull me toward the window. Outside, the street kept its steady New Year's quiet. Inside, pressure had blinked and lost. In my coat pocket, the certified copy sat like a shield. There would be more conversations, but leverage had just changed hands, and not the way my son imagined. New Year's Day ended without signatures, which is to say, it ended correctly. On January the 2nd, I took the certified copy of my will out of the fireproof folder, placed it in a leather portfolio with 2 tabs, blue for originals, red for exhibits, and called my attorney. Megan answered on the first ring. Judge, sorry, Arthur, she corrected herself. How did brunch go? As anticipated, I said. An attempted end run with a napkin will? Then we proceed gently and in writing, she said. Do you want me to send a status letter to the interested parties? Yes. Tone. Courteous. Final. Attach the clerk's lodging receipt, the notarized self-proving affidavit, and Dr. Harrell's capacity letter, dated last month. Already drafted, she replied. Signature blocks for acknowledgement only, not consent. No room for edits. Good, I said. They'll be tempted to confuse acknowledgement with amendment. Don't offer the temptation. At home, the house was January quiet, the kind that makes radiators sound like conversation. I brewed tea the way Linda taught me, pour over kettle, patient circles. My granddaughter Emma's drawing leaned against a bookend, a sunshine with too many rays, and my name printed under it in her brave letters. I set it beside the portfolio. A man needs reminders of what the law is for. At noon, Brandon called. I let it go to voicemail. He texted instead, Dad, we got off on the wrong foot. Let's meet. No paperwork, just talk. Talk is better with documents, I replied. Come by at 3. He arrived on time, jaw set to reasonable. Kelly came too, lips thinned with effort. They sat across from me as if we were already at council table. Dad, Brandon began, palms open. We love you. Yesterday was clumsy. We just want to be sure your wishes are clear. They're clear to the court, I said, sliding the portfolio forward. And to me? Kelly leaned in. Can we see? You can acknowledge, I corrected. I set out the clerk's stamped receipt, the will's attestation page with 2 disinterested witnesses, the self-proving affidavit with notary seal that would satisfy any probate judge who ever wore a robe, and Dr. Harrell's letter, succinct, clinical, impossible to budge. Mr. Whitaker demonstrates full testamentary capacity. Brandon stared at the seal as if it might blink. "You filed it already," he said. "Before Christmas," I answered. "I prefer the law to pressure." He swallowed. "We weren't pressuring. We were expediting," I supplied, "on a holiday, without counsel, with forms that would fail first-year scrutiny." Kelly's cheeks colored. "Our friend's a lawyer." "He may be a friend," I said. "He is not your lawyer in this context, and he is certainly not mine." Silence held for a count of 5. I've let harder silences stand in court. I let this one too. Brandon tried a softer road. "Dad, we're worried about you keeping track of things, the house, the accounts. We want to help." "Worry is not a power of attorney," I said. "If you want to help, you will respect boundaries. You will not present legal documents to a 71-year-old man over champagne and call it kindness." He flinched, then breathed. "Okay, what do you want from us?" "3 things," I said, ticking them off. "First, you will read the letter my counsel sends and sign the acknowledgment that you have received it. Second, you will cease any effort to alter my estate plan outside of my counsel's office. Third, you will understand that legacy is not a prize. It is a responsibility conditioned on conduct." Kelly shifted. "Conditioned how?" "By presence," I said. "By respect. By showing up when it's inconvenient." Brandon nodded slowly, as if each word were a nail he had to seat with a hammer he didn't trust. "I can do that." "Good," I said and meant it. "Start today. Take the box in the hallway to Goodwill. Your mother meant to do that before she died. Fix the hinge on the pantry door. You promised her you would. And call Emma's school and ask when grandparents can read in class. Then go read." Something in his face uncoiled. "I can do that," Kelly exhaled. "We'll do that." We stood, no hugs, not yet. Just the clean gravity of terms set and understood. After they left, I called Megan. "They've been notified," I said. "I outlined conditions." "Good," she replied. "A letter is going out by courier. And Judge, Arthur, one more thing. If anyone whispers capacity challenge, we get ahead of it. You'll sit for a second evaluation next week. It's routine. It's also strategic." "Book it," I said. "Morning before I'm tired." I made more tea. I took Emma's son and pinned it to the corkboard above my desk. Then I opened a drawer and removed a small, heavy envelope, one Linda sealed a year before she passed, labeled in her careful script, "Open when dignity needs company." Inside, a note and a brass coin I'd carried on the bench for decades, engraved with scales. Her note said simply, "Hold this when you tell the truth." I set the coin beside the portfolio. I have lost cases I should have won, and won cases I wish the world never had to bring. But I learned this: the calmest voice in the room often owns the room. At dusk, a neighbor, Mark, knocked to borrow a ladder. We discussed gutters, then grandchildren, then the weather, the old American muses. When he left, the house settled into a workable quiet. I wrote one line in my pocket notebook: "Dignity filed, boundaries served, love invited under terms, not revenge, not victory, just order, taking its seat again, like an old friend who never needed an introduction." The capacity evaluation took 30 minutes and the better part of a lifetime. Dr. Harrell, neat as a ledger line, arrived with a tablet and a voice built for steadying the ruffled. We sat at the dining table Linda picked decades ago because good wood calms people. It still did. "Arthur," he began, "not Judge," which was a kindness. "I'll ask you ordinary questions in an orderly way. Date and time?" "January 3rd, 10:15, I said. Cold morning, barometer falling if my knees can be trusted. He smiled. President? President Trump, I answered, which made him smile a second time, perhaps at the speed, perhaps at the absence of hesitation. He asked me to count backward by sevens, draw a clock, recall 3 words after a story about a grocery list. I did each task with the ease of a man who graded harder tests with less sleep. Then he shifted to the heart of testamentary capacity, though he didn't call it that. Tell me what you own, who your natural heirs are, and what you intend to do with your estate. I own this house and the account that keeps it breathing, I said. I own books that matter to no one but me, and a set of ethics that, yes, I intend to leave behind in writing. My heirs are my son, Brandon, and my granddaughter, Emma. I intend to provide for them, for the library that taught me to think, and for the clinic that kept Linda comfortable when comfort was all that was left. I know what a will is. I know this one says what I mean. He nodded, writing without haste. That's enough for any court, he said, and for me. When he left, I stood at the window and watched the street's ordinary courage. Trash pickup, a mail carrier who waves to everyone, a neighbor struggling a Christmas tree toward the curb and laughing at himself. The day didn't need to know it had just hosted a safeguard. Good days don't look different when order is preserved. At noon, a courier delivered Megan's letter to Brandon and to Kelly with a copy to their family attorney. The letter was 2 pages of courtesy wrapped around a spine of steel. Acknowledgement only, no amendments, the will lodged, capacity affirmed, counsel retained. It offered a meeting in her office if they wished to discuss anything not inconsistent with the presently lodged instrument. Brandon called at 2. I got the letter, he said. The old defensiveness had drained out of his voice, replaced by something closer to tired humility. We'll sign the acknowledgment. Good, I said. Bring Emma by Saturday. She can help me return the library books. He chuckled, the sound a bridge. She'll like that. An hour later, Kelly texted, I'm sorry. Yesterday felt like being practical. It wasn't. We'll do this right. I wrote back, doing it right is practical. Evening brought an unexpected knock. Emma stood there with a shoebox and a grin too big for January. We're making memory boxes in school, she announced. Mom said you have the best memories. I opened the lid and saw space that wanted filling. I gave her Linda's recipe for gingerbread, the key to the old courthouse I'd been allowed to keep after they renovated, and a coin with scales engraved that had once kept my hand steady before a hard ruling. This is heavy, she said, testing the coin in her palm. Truth is, I said. We sat on the rug, building a little museum of an ordinary man's life. What's a will? She asked suddenly. Kelly stiffened on the couch, but I didn't. It's a letter you write to the future, I said. It tells the truth about what mattered to you and who you trusted to carry it forward. She considered that, serious as a judge with a new gavel. Did you write one? I did, I said. Is it about money? Partly, I said, but mostly it's about promises. Emma nodded, satisfied, and returned to arranging her treasures. Recipe, key, coin, a photograph of Linda holding her a week after she was born. The room felt full, not of tension, but of continuity. When they left, I dialed Megan. It's quiet, I said. That's the point, she replied. If anything ramps up, we're in front of it, but I suspect it won't. Your son met the line. Often when the boundary appears early and clean, The fight dissolves before it starts. I set the phone down and poured tea. In the stillness, I realized the day had delivered all three of the story's turns: the attempted shortcut, the formal answer, and the small human repair that law can't require but can protect. I wrote in my pocket notebook, "Today, the house remembered it belongs to calm." Then I turned off the lights and let the dark be kind. January settled into a rhythm that even grief could respect. I woke before the thermostat, boiled water, and opened the curtains to let winter prove it could still be beautiful. The house, which had felt like a witness during Linda's last months and like a jury the year after, now felt like a bench, steady, elevated just enough to see the whole room. On a Saturday morning, Brandon and Kelly arrived with Emma and a Tupperware of muffins that tasted like a peace offering. Brandon carried a large envelope, hands careful, as if it contained the past. "We signed the acknowledgments," he said, "and we met with Megan. She explained a lot." I smiled. "She's good at that." "We also cleaned out the pantry hinge," Kelly added, grinning. "It squeaks less and reminds us more." Emma held up her shoebox. "Look, Grandpa's coin sits in its own corner now." "Good," I said. "Some weight deserves space." After muffins and a story about Emma's class hamster staging a midnight jailbreak, Brandon cleared his throat. "Dad, there's something else. We want to set up a scholarship at the community college, in your name, for paralegal students. You always said good law needs good hands." For a heartbeat, I didn't trust my own. "That's a fine idea," I said, voice lower than intended. "We'll fund it," Kelly added, eyes bright. "From us, not from your estate. Consider it amended behavior." I nodded, the old judge inside me checking the boxes. Acknowledgement, action, change. "Approved," I said, and we all laughed at the way I couldn't not be myself. In the afternoon, we walked to the library. I returned 3 books and checked out 2, because restraint is a muscle worth flexing. The librarian, Denise, leaned over the counter. "Judge, Arthur, I heard about the scholarship. We'll host the announcement. The reading room is yours." On the way home, Emma asked, "Grandpa, what does your will say about stories?" "It says they go with anyone who wants to carry them," I answered. "They weigh less that way." That evening, alone at my desk, I took out the original will Megan had lodged. The court had a copy, but this one still smelled faintly of ink. I read it like a man walking his own boundary fence at dusk, checking for breaks, finding none. Then I wrote a separate letter, not a directive, not an instruction, but a plain-spoken explanation addressed to whoever stood on the other side of my life when I wasn't there to translate. To my family and to the institutions that steadied me, I wrote, "I have tried to allocate not just dollars, but meaning. If you find yourselves tempted to change what is clear, ask whether the change is for convenience or for conscience. Conscience belongs in the first paragraph of any amendment. Convenience never does. If you must test anything, test whether your choice makes you gentler. If it does, proceed. If not, reconsider." I sealed the letter and placed it with the will, not binding, but ballast. A week later, we gathered in the library reading room for the scholarship announcement. Denise introduced the idea with her usual warmth. Brandon spoke for a minute without notes, voice steady. "My father taught me that law is a public trust," he said. "We once tried to make a private shortcut. He held a public line. Today, we honor that line." Applause rose that sounded like the rustle of many pages turning. Afterward, a young man approached me, hand extended. "Mr. Whitaker, I'm Jason," he said. First year paralegal. I almost quit last semester. This helps. Good, I said. Stay. The law needs people who want to stop harm before it starts. He nodded, as if someone had pulled a splinter he couldn't name. Back home, Emma asked for one more story. I told her about the first time I put on the robe, the weight of it, the humbling sense that the room changed because I entered, but only because of what the robe asked of me. It's not a costume, I said. It's a contract. She traced the scales on the coin with her finger. Like this? Like that, I said. Night settled easy. Before bed, I made one last addition to my pocket notebook. Justice, properly understood, is not punishment. It is arrangement. Today, the furniture of my life sits where it belongs. I turned out the light and let the house breathe. The will was safe, the letter tucked behind it, the scholarship launched, the pantry hinge quiet, the child's shoebox heavy with good weight. There were no victories to trumpet, no enemies to vanquish, only a man who kept his voice when pressure asked him to misplace it, and a family who learned to hear it without fear. If this ending found you, if it reminded you that steady beats loud, subscribe, tap like, and share a comment about the quiet boundary you kept when it mattered. That's how we leave each other better letters for the future.